This is Jocko Podcast number 11 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. And additionally today, we have our first guest, Leif Babin. Leif, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here with you.
Now, to begin this podcast today, I'm going to start at the end. I'm going to start at the end of my Navy career when I retired from the SEAL teams after 20 years. And this is the speech that I gave on my last day of military service, my last day in the SEAL teams, and about an hour before I walked back to the Tradette building, cleaned the last things out of my locker, loaded them into my car, and drove away from the SEAL teams for the last time. With 20 years of memories and experiences and the best times of my life and the worst times of my life all rushing through my mind. And this is the speech I gave that day. During my last deployment to Iraq in 2006, one of the first things we did was a series of operations on the eastern side of Ramadi. In order to execute these operations, we took a majority of the SEALs to Camp Corregidor, home of the first of the 506 Band of Brothers, on the edge of the Malab district of Ramadi. Camp Corregidor was like Fort Apocalypse. They received mortar fire, RPGs, and small arms fire daily. The barracks were an old, partially blown-out building with sandbags in the windows, dirt floors, and no air conditioning. There were no showers. It was hard living. As far as the fighting, Charlie Company, from the 1st of the 506, who we were set to work with, had suffered almost 40 casualties in the time they had been in Ramadi and had gone from a fighting force of 140 to just over 100. Charlie Company loved having SEALs with them. After the first operation they conducted with SEALs, the company commander told his battalion CO he wanted SEALs with him on every mission to help keep his men alive. As we continued these initial operations into the Malab district, there were heavy firefights, many dead enemy, and multiple coalition casualties. It was intense, sustained combat. Many would have considered Camp Corregidor and eastern Ramadi to be hell on earth. But I knew it was exactly where SEALs belonged. We soon completed that first run of missions and headed back to our main camp. When we got there, I told one of the platoon commanders I wanted him to select guys to form a 7-man squad to take back to Camp Corregidor. But he told me he didn't want to just pick guys. He thought that some guys might not want to go back to Corregidor due to the hard living conditions, the tough fighting, and the high rate of casualties. That sounded reasonable to me, so I mustered the whole troop in the planning space. I explained to them that we were sending a squad to Corregidor permanently because the Army is in a tough fight and suffering heavy casualties, and that as Americans, as servicemen, and as frogmen, we cannot sit on the sidelines as that happens. If there's a fight, we need to be in it. I wrote on the dry erase board, Camp Corregidor Volunteers. And I said to this pack of SEALs, if you want to go over to Corregidor, if you want to volunteer to be in the worst area, with the worst living conditions, with the hardest fighting, and with the highest chances of getting hurt or killed, then go ahead and write your name up on that board. And then I walked out of the room. A short while later, I came back in and I looked at the list on the board. It was filled. In fact, every single SEAL, to a man, had written his name on that board. Yes, every man had volunteered to go forward into that raging storm. And that is who we are. That is what we joined the SEAL teams for, to do what no one else can do, in the worst areas, in the worst conditions. We crave the dirt and sweat and fire and blood. Let there be no doubt. It is in our soul. It is in our nature. Sure, SEALs can do any job well, but it is in the belly of the beast where we thrive. I have seen with my own eyes the wholesale slaughter that occurs when SEALs are unleashed on the enemy as we were meant to be. And it is an incredible thing. It is also a thing of strategic impact. Areas like Ramadi and Sadr City, which after years of complete enemy control, become pacified soon after the sword of overwhelming carnage is wielded by the frogmen on the high ground. This is who we are. Death dealers, killers, executioners. And in being so, saviors, defenders, warriors. Now, there are those that say we need to change, evolve, and mature. They claim that the nature of war has changed, that it is more complex and demands a more sensitive approach. I say they are wrong. War may morph and appear different through the ages. And when you live through a war and you see it up close, like we are now, you may notice complexities that you didn't perceive about the wars you studied in history class. But I tell you, there is nothing new. The nature of war has never changed and never will change. The nature of war is death, to kill the enemy before he kills you. The rest is details. Now, of course, we can handle the details. In fact, SEALs can excel at all of them. Gathering intelligence, assembling information, forming alliances, rebuilding communities, training, protecting, treating. SEALs can do anything. But these details can also be done by others. You don't need to be a SEAL to conduct those activities. I say, send SEALs forward into the violent fray. Send SEALs where no one else can go to do what no one else can do. Send SEAL to find and butcher our enemy's soulless masses and leave nothing behind but scorched earth and rubbled buildings. That is our nature. As I look at the SEAL teams today, I say to you all, yes, absolutely, evolve. Get smarter, better, faster, more creative. Learn to mitigate risk when you can. Figure out new ways to win. Attack the enemy in new ways using information and intelligence. Infiltrate the enemy and turn him against himself, evil against evil. Adapt and overcome changing enemy tactics. By all means, evolve and get better every day, every chance you get. But don't forget the nature of war, and don't forget the nature of SEALs. We must train brutally and without mercy so we can fight the same way, brutally and without mercy. Our job is to close with and destroy the enemy, and we do it better than anyone. Yes, our current wars will someday end, but war endures. Before man was, war waited for him. As long as man is, war will always be. Always. And our great nation will always need men to do what is in our nature. Kill the enemy. Kill him as he sleeps. Kill him as he plots. Kill him as he hides. Kill him as he fights. That is our nature. And that is our solemn duty. Light the fire. Take the torch, hold it high. Let it burn bright. Let it supply the warmth and light of freedom and liberty for our countrymen. But also, let the fire incinerate our enemy. Let the inferno consume everything he is, everything he ever will be, and everything he has ever held sacred. As I walk away from the teams today, I assure you I will never forget. I will never forget your service and sacrifice. I will never forget you, my fellow SEALs, for getting me here to this day, for leading me, for following me, and for watching my back. I will never forget our fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that have fought and sacrificed so much. I will never forget those big, tough frogmen and hardcore SEALs that came before me, particularly the ones that raised me in the teams and taught me the true way of the frogman. And finally, I will never forget our fallen brothers, the many SEALs who have sacrificed their lives for our freedom, especially Mark Lee, Mike Mansour, and Ryan Job of SEAL Team 3 Task Unit Bruiser, who lived and fought and died like warriors. I am humbled to have served with you all, and I will never forget. Thank you. God bless the teams, and God bless the United States of America. And then I walked away. Now, I often talk about the Marine Corps, and I talk about the Army soldiers, and I talk about the immense respect and admiration that I and that we as SEALs have for them. But if you haven't noticed, I don't usually talk about the SEAL teams and the frogmen that fill those ranks, probably because I was raised not to talk about what we do. But let there be no doubt. I hold the SEAL teams and the brotherhood of the teams sacred. The SEAL teams is not just what I did, it is who I am. And really, it all culminated. It reached its peak in the highlight of my life, which was being in command of Task Unit Bruiser in Ramadi, Iraq. Task Unit Bruiser was my vision of the teams. It was everything I had always wanted the teams to be. Badass frogmen, tough, mean, funny, aggressive, professional. SEALs. SEALs that take the fight to the enemy. Like our legendary forefathers in Vietnam. SEALs that the enemy feared because we hunted them down and killed them. Task Unit Bruiser was what I always wanted the SEAL teams to be. But I was not Task Unit Bruiser. Yes, I was the commander, but Task Unit Bruiser was by no means me. Task Unit Bruiser was the men, especially a core group within the group that held the standard and carried the fire. It was those men that I am eternally indebted for giving me that gift, for fulfilling the vision that I had. Men like Mark Lee and Mike Mansour and Ryan Job. Men like Chris Kyle. And those are the ones that we talk about. We talk about them only because they are gone. But there were many others in that core group who go on silently, unknown to the world, most of whom are still in the fight. And it was those men, of course, those fallen warriors that made the ultimate sacrifice, but also those unnamed men of Task Unit Bruiser who held the line and marched into the fray over and over again for me and for the teams and for the Navy and for our great nation. I owe them everything. And I have one of them here tonight.